The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Hello, and welcome to the Sunday Blether. I didn't see you guys there. Hello everyone, and welcome to the new look Sunday Blether. I am your host for this morning, David Logue, and I am joined by a star-studded lineup. We've got sitting across from me today, he's in the same room as me right now, believe it or not. We've pulled at all the stops today. I've flown him all the way up from down south. My dad, Johnny Logue, welcome to the show, Da. Mark Kearney, the judge, he's joined us as always. He's all ready to take on the Sunday like nobody else. And of course, the real star of the show, the main man himself, Regan Stevenson, has joined us. Gentlemen, how are we all doing?
I'm doing very well, mate. Thanks.
Although I think you're overplaying my part.
Good to be on.
You made me drive up.
Oh, okay, we drove up. We've given him the petrol money. It's all come out of the bus bank. I'm going to just get straight into it, guys. I've got a lot to discuss. And what the format of the new Sunday Blether is going to be, guys, is I've got. I went out. Well, actually, I sent my dad out this morning to go and pick us a paper. I told him to get a few, but when he seen the prices of £2.40 for a fucking paper, he said you're only getting one. So I'm afraid all the budget was spent on the one paper this morning. So I hope you're all happy with that. I'm just going to dive straight into it because there wasn't actually too much Celtic related news in the papers, as you can imagine. That mob across the city are taking up majority of the paper talk with the potential signing of a potential appointment of Mr. Mick Beale. He's got a nickname now since he's left Glasgow. So what I'm going to start with, guys, and I hope you can entertain me on this one. And I'm sure you will, Mark. We're going to start off with a topic of discussion that we all like to have a wee chat about on the bus, and that is our right back position. Now, this column here I've got is written by Scott McDermott, but he's been speaking with our former right back Mark Wilson, who was at the club. I think was it 6 years he was at the club. Mm-hmm. This column, guys, goes on to talk about whether Ralston has what it takes to still compete at right back with the potential signing of the Canadian right back Johnston, who is currently featuring at the World Cup. Yep. Mark goes on to say that Mark Wilson knows exactly how Anthony Ralston must be feeling at Celtic right now, The club's young Scottish right back is currently vying for his position at Parkhead with the Croatia World Cup star Josef Juranovic. As if that isn't hard enough, news would have filtered through that to him yesterday that gaffer Ange Postecoglou is now chasing another in Canada ace Alistair Johnson, who is also starring in Qatar. That move looks likely to go through in the January transfer window, leaving Ralston with the almighty task of competing with both. Juranovic has been linked with moves away from the Hoops, so his future is up in the air. And that's why Wilson has urged 24-year-old Anthony Ralston not to press the panic button. Is he going to be pressing the panic button, Mark? Do you think that?
Well, he's already pressed the ejector button on Juranovic a long time ago. I think anybody that's watched Celtic with an objective eye, you know what I mean, certainly the last 3-4 months of this season, or however how long it's been on, can tell you that Anthony Ralston is by far and away the better player at Celtic. You know what I mean? Whether that's because Juranovic has got his head away, or whether it's just because Ralston's went on to another level, who knows? But I don't think anybody's in any doubts anymore that the guy who gives you more heart and desire is Ralston, gives you more legs and more that Celtic attitude we're looking for, and guys that are just there to give everything on the part for the club, and that's Anthony Ralston. I don't think Juranovic ticks any boxes for me. You know, it just looks more classy. He's got a more fancy sounding name. He comes from a different part of the world, and I don't think he'll be panicking. I mean, that's Boy Johnson. I think he's come in. He's got to be coming in. I think because there's already somebody, or there's already the doors left open for people to come in and speak to Juranovic. I think when it hits the papers that Celtic are open for discussions, that means that Celtic have put it out there that they're open for discussions, and agents speak, people and they know, get to know these things, and all I can hope for now is that he has a good World Cup and we can get as much money as we can for him, and just try and invest as much as we can back on the rest of the squad. I don't think Anthony Ralston will be worried. I think, same as Greg Taylor, I think they'll relish the opportunity to bring in better players, raise their standards, and the only people that benefit for that is the Celtic fans, because at the end of the day, I don't really care who's wearing the Celtic strips, as long as they're the best option in every position. It doesn't matter what the name in the back of the strip is. To me, that's irrelevant. As much as I've got my favourites, it could be anybody. As long as they're the best option for Celtic, I don't care who they are or where they're from.
Now, Regan, before I move on to you, mate, I would just like to apologise to everybody, because I've come in here on the Sunday Blether and I haven't offered anybody any good stuff. So, as Phil likes to say, let's look at all that good stuff. If you like what we do on the bus, make sure you give us a wee like on YouTube, give us a wee subscribe, hit that subscribe button, give us a wee share, tweet it to your granny. I don't care. Just you spread the word of the bus. It's absolutely free. Everything's absolutely optional. There's no any added extras for subscribing. Everybody gets the same here on the bus. And I just want to also apologise. I was told by Phil to make sure I had my plastic fruit bowl for the Sunday Blether. But we've got the Sunday supplement theme going on. I don't have a plastic fruit bowl, I'm afraid. I've only got the world's saddest fruit bowl with 2 dying bananas in it. So, I'm afraid that's all you're getting out of me today. Regan, Mark's saying there that he doesn't care who it is that comes in, so long as they're going to put in a shift for the shirt.
Yeah.
Mark Wilson goes on to say that he believes that he insists that the more competition that Ralston faces, the better player he'll become. Do you agree with what Mark Wilson has to say there and what Mr. Mark Kearney had to say?
I do agree with what both Marks have got to say there, but I think that in terms of Ralston, I don't think he'll be pressing the panic button, because I've not really seen much of Johnson, but I think Ralston will be taking the number 1 spot, and I think that's part of the reason why, if you look at the last maybe 4 or 5 games up to the World Cup, Ralston was starting, and people were saying, or maybe it's to get JJ, as I like to call him, into a rest for the World Cup. And I was kind of thinking, well, surely not, it's rest for the World Cup. It's because Ange knows he's already checked out. He's packed his bags and he's went off to maybe Atletico Madrid or something like that. I want to ask you guys then, what do you think Celtic will be saying? Do you think they'll be saying 12 to 15 million or 10 million or?
I think it starts at 10.
What do you think, Dad?
I think 10, between 10 and 12 is probably a realistic figure, I would have thought, and that might just be pushing it a bit, purely because you know what people are like. They're going to say Scottish League, unlike the Dutch League and the Portuguese League, whose prices seem to get inflated, now it seems to get pushed the other way. Except for an exceptional talent such as somebody like Kieran Kearney, and Juranovic isn't in that level, is he?
Do we think that, from what we've seen of the World Cup so far from Croatia, will his price inflate as Croatia go through the tournament, if they manage to get through further on to the tournament, or will it just sort of stagnate? Do you think he's already hit, if it's going to be 10 or 15 million, is that the ceiling? No matter how good of a World Cup that Juranovic has, or even a bad tournament he has, will it fluctuate or decrease?
I think it will. I mean, I think the World Cup's the biggest stage, and superstars are born at the World Cup. You know what I mean? You've that guy James Rodriguez. You know what I mean? He had a good World Cup, and he was going to Real Madrid. You know what I mean? I think where they play and how they've played before that just tends to peter into insignificance. You know what I mean? I think the clubs look at the here and now and who's in fashion and what's in fashion. And I think if every World Cup a superstar's born, you know what I mean, and there'll be one or two born in this. You don't have actually displays. I've not watched Croatia, to be honest with you, so I don't know how good he's played. But one thing's for sure is Croatia are kind of like a fancy name out there, in terms of they're a popular name, they're quite a classy name. So if they do get to the latter stages at the quarterfinals, the fact that he's playing for Croatia, like by default, you're going to be getting a higher wage, a higher transfer fee for him. I think anybody that watched the Champions League displays would be very disappointed in him. I think they would, if you delve deeper into I mean, you would see he's not as good as, but some people would suggest that he was when he turned around and laughed at Kent. You know what I mean? And I said before, Chris Ayer built a Celtic career when he cheered his goal line clearance at Celtic Park. I think he was a bit of a so what figure up until that moment, and they were selling badges an hour later, and he became a bit of a cult hero for the Celtic fans. And I think Juranovic kind of was born into that category when he laughed at Kent. Just quickly on, I said 10 million in the summertime, and I stand by that. I think that if Croatia get further, it might inflate his price. I don't think it will go down anyway, because he's still, as much as I laugh at this statement, he's still a Croatian right back internationalist. So that comes with the same price tag. That comes with the same kudos.
27 year old, I think, 27, 28, and he's got.
So his last contract, isn't it? Really, it's his last big contract.
Yeah. So when I look at this column here, and obviously it's by our former right back Mark Wilson, I do see a lot of parallels with Mark Wilson and Anthony Ralston. He goes on to say that I have been there. I watched the likes of Hinkle and Chaduri come in when I was at Celtic. The two who eventually did eventually out me were Lustig and Adam Matthews. So like we've got a Scottish player, Mark Wilson, not branded as a very sexy name in the game. He was a very steady right back as far as I remember, and we've seen the likes of Chaduri and a German and Andreas Hinkle coming in, and just because of the nationalities of the players that were coming in, I think it was seen as they will definitely get in ahead of Mark Wilson, just like Anthony Ralston, being obviously he's come from the academy, Scottish, not very glamorous. He didn't have the greatest of career up until really last season. It is very easy to say, well, a Croatian right back, or even nowadays, it's mad to think that a Canadian right back can come in and automatically people will assume that, well, that's Anthony Ralston dropping down the pecking order. But like Mark Wilson, he managed to keep Andrew Sinko and Chaduri out of the team, and it took a Swedish international and a very good Adam Matthews, I believed at the time, to kind of push him out the side. So I think there's a lot of parallels with Anthony Ralston's career so far. What's your take on? Do you see that Anthony Ralston will be able to still
Well,
put in a shift.
I think if Juranovic does go in the January transfer window and we do bring in this guy Johnson, he obviously I've never seen him play him really. Little clip on if he was playing for Canada. I didn't see that game, just in brief highlights. But I did read an article about him. He was giving an interview, and he sounds like he might be a bit like Ralston. He sounds like he's a big, strong lad, and he says by his own admission that he likes to put a tackle in. I think if you've been tackled by him, you know you have been. He was quite a champion or a good level ice hockey player, and he was one of these ones that, not that I follow ice hockey, but he talks, with the blockers. He won't shirk out a 50-50 ball, but I do think hopefully Ralston has earned the right to start as the first pick, and this guy's coming in to see if he can take Ralston's jersey rather than when Juranovic came in. We all pretty much knew Juranovic was likely going to come in and take the berth, and Ralston's going to have to try and get it back off him, which in fairness he's pretty much done.
And I think the important thing to mention about David is the fact that he talked about between 4 and 5 million. So I think Celtic are already taking in account the JJ dollars. Remember, people called it the dollars.
JJ,
you can call it the JJ dollars. So maybe Celtic are already saying, right, we're going to pay 5 million for him because we know that we're going to start at 10 million, as Mark said, and then we can build on that.
Yeah, I think it's showing, what we've been obviously alluding to on the bus, what we thought would be happening is, we sign Juranovic for 2 million, 2.5 million. A season and a half later, we get the 10, maybe 15 million, and then we invest it in a player at twice the price that we paid for Juranovic. So it's a steady building block into us of going down the route that Ange has said that he wants to take the club, and just slowly progressing by buying a slightly better player each time we go back into the market. And that's what we want to see at the club. We don't want to see us going back into the market and buying another right back at 1 million who's not going to challenge, that isn't going to challenge Anthony Ralston. Because like Mark Wilson says here about, it's good competition to get in better players. It's not great competition bringing a player that Anthony Ralston will probably shrug off no problem. It's interesting to see that Matt Wilson also, this is the last thing I'm going to bring up about this column, and it looks into the mindset of a player, probably like Anthony Ralston, maybe what is going through his head. Says here, under Neil Lennon, Chad Dury was brought in. At times it was difficult to get my head around it. I would ask myself, why am I not just trusted? But it's always the case at Celtic when you're young and Scottish.
That's true.
Does that sum up our philosophy, maybe even as a fan base? Because I'm guilty of, when I say us, but I am guilty of seeing a young Scottish talent, and if he's not quite at it right away, I'm already looking at, right, well, who else have we got? And it's always usually a foreign player. But we'll always give Leila Bader, I'll use him as an example, who's been terrific for Celtic, but he makes a lot of mistakes because he's young. But because he's come from Israel, he's not come from our academy, I'm always willing to give him a little bit extra time because of the money that was spent on him, the sexy name aspect, rather than putting the same amount of maybe patience in our young Scottish talent. I'm certainly guilty of it. I don't know about the rest of you. I mean, but that's something that I need to maybe work on.
Well, that's exactly what happened with James Forrest, really, wasn't it? Because he wasn't the sexy name, and he was a born and bred Celtic supporter who came through the ranks. He used to get a bit of stick, whereas a foreign name, if it was Forestieri, for example, rather than Forrest, would probably need a bit more slack.
El Forrest.
We've got enough vowels in his name. I think we're all guilty of it. I think even the international Scotland managers are guilty of it. We've seen Scotland players that are utter dug meat getting picked because they play in the English Championship. Just purely because they play in England, you know what I mean?
Look at that McBurney, they played with Scotland. McBurney.
Oh, he's terrible. He's terrible. You know what? I think it's definitely the case that, see, as a fan base, we love nothing more than to look down and see somebody who's born and bred a Celtic fan on the pitch. We love nothing more than that, but we love nothing more just as equally as giving them criticism when they don't perform at the level that we deem appropriate every week, you know what I mean?
I mean, lockdown was so bad, David, but I'm so glad that I didn't need to go and watch John Joe Kenny and Diego Lax out in
Aye.
Germany. I mean, that would have put me
That was a
into,
gift. I
that
mean,
would have put me into, I've been
the Chinese invented that to save me watching Laxalt and
John Joe Kenny.
and Duffy play for Celtic. I think if you like just quickly on the Scottish part, I think Anthony Ralston and Greg Taylor. I mean, there's been a lot of money spent on the left side air defence with ball and goalie. He's tripped to Spain aside. He wasn't at it. Bernabeu and all. I mean, there's no way. I've said this before on this show. There's no way Ange sat at a board meeting or whatever meeting, a recruitment meeting, and said, I want £4 million for a second choice the left back to sit behind the Scottish boy for Kilmarnock. There's no way. He's been 1,000,000% says this boy's come in to be the first choice. Celtic, there's no club in Scottish football. In fact, there's not been a Celtic team built in our history that's afforded a £4 million second choice left back. No chance. He was brought in to be the first choice instantly. He showed up to the training ground with his boots on. They went, oh fuck. They went, what's happened here? Greg Taylor's by far and away the better player. And listen, I hope Regan's right. I hope Anthony Ralston is the first choice because he's earned it. So see the way this guy's costing 10 million or 500 grand, he's got to come in and win his place. And that's what I was saying earlier on about the names at the back of the tap. The first choice should be the best player for that position, or at least the best player to face that opposition, or the best player in that formation, etc. So if this boy comes in, game time should be given to him, but absolutely only when enough
I don't
it's
think
appropriate.
Well, he cost £5 million, so would definitely be in, Mark. So
I think, well, my dad was saying that Celtic got to get him for under £1 million.
I thought it was £5
No, I know. I seen Phil. I don't know if it's Phil's got the controls there, but I see it popping up there £5 million. But my dad was saying that he's come in for a couple of peanuts and 5 big totties. I don't think it's going to be £5 million. I just what I heard that how accurate it is, I don't know, but I'd actually be a bit shocked to say it's been £5 million.
Where's he playing his club football at the minute, Mark?
Vancouver. He plays in the MLS. I'm not sure it's Vancouver, but I know it's the MLS he's playing.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to spend 5 or 6 million on.
Yeah. I know he's rated at that price, John. I think he's rated at that price, but I don't think he's going to go. And plus, to be honest with you, see, bike. I don't need disrespect because this is us being English here when we say this. But see, people that are coming for the MLS, they need to get up to level. They need to get up to standards. You know what I mean? It's certainly no a bad league, but it's like we're signing for a league that just isn't at the competitive level of Scotland.
Speaking of the MLS,
I don't know. There's a few teams that would give a few of our clubs a doing. If I'm honest, Mark, I've watched a couple there. They're very attacking minded. I think that's maybe.
I think technically, there's a lot of good players. A lot of good players in these leagues, mate. And even the Australian team that beat us, they could probably go in and beat Hearts and beat Aberdeen and the rest of it. I'm pretty confident of that. But I think over this season, I mean, it's some of the players. I mean, Johnny Russell. I think who's the boy that we let go?
Morgan's turning up in that league.
I mean, that guy is probably the best player that's ever kicked a ball that isn't shaped like an egg in America, and he's not good enough for the B team. You know what I mean? So I don't think an MLS team could come in and get a sniff of top 3 or top 4 teams over a 38-game season. I really don't know.
I was going to ask you guys, remember during the lockdown we signed these two American guys?
Aye.
Aye,
well, it just shows you how smart we were back then. 2 of them never had international clearance. Manny Perez and Gutman. So we had to loan them out at the minute they were signed. They had to get sent back to different countries, and they couldn't even meet up with the team. They could only train with the team when they went abroad because they didn't have international clearance. So just shows you how stupid we must have flung a couple $100,000 away in new players easily, maybe even more than that.
A lot of money flying around that league as well, you know. So that's why I think maybe then if we've been told he's less than $1 million, but like you said, there's a Canadian journalist that's saying he's worth $5 million, and they just go off the basis that there's a lot of money thrown about in our league, and you know that's we won't even entertain anything less than $5 million because of the. I
hope you're right, David. It'll show that they've got to that next level that we spoke about on Thursday, if you remember. gone for that £2 million replacement to the £5 million replacement. To be honest with you, I know it's going to sound like I'm backtracking here. As long as they're good enough, it doesn't matter how much they cost.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was going to say.
I want the club to speculate.
Yeah.
I want the club to go.
Does it affect the mindset of the fans seeing, we're only got him for $1 million? Because from what I've seen of him, I didn't see the full game, the Belgium game, but he apart from that stray pass that almost led to a goal quite early on, he looked like he had a solid game. And I always try not to worry too much when I'm watching a player what his price tag is, because that doesn't always tell the full story. Let's move on though. Let's move on to another topic. Okay, this is just a small one I found in the paper, and it actually ended up being on page 67. Funny enough. So a lot of you have been watching the World Cup, I imagine, and from the games that we've seen, there's been a lot of added time at the end of each game. So much so that after day 3, they'd accumulated enough to play an entire full 90 minutes of extra time between the games that had happened. So this here is from a former referee, what's his name, Steve Conroy. He says that the column title is "It Would Add Up for Celts," and he goes on to say that Celtic would benefit more than Rangers if FIFA's new stoppage time directive is implemented in Scotland, according to a former top ref. Several games at the World Cup in Qatar have gone beyond the 100-minute mark as officials clamp down on time wasting. Former whistler Steve Conroy reckons it would suit Celtic more than their city rivals if Premiership games were to last as long. Conroy, speaking to Bonus Code Bets, said Celtic would benefit from the new rules most currently. Rangers don't play like Celtic, who are non-stop, and the longer they have the ball, the more likely that they're going to benefit from it. It would definitely do Celtic the power of good. Regan, what's your thoughts on Mr. Conroy's comments there?
Well, David, when we come on the show at 5 to 11, I said to you, is he meaning that badly? But he's obviously meaning a good way, and I tend to agree with him, because if you look at the Motherwell game, the Dundee game, when they get score that goal in the last minute, and then we somehow get 2 goals. So I think when you look at it as well, David, a lot of these teams kind of, I wouldn't say try and waste time, but the longer the game goes, they just shut up shop and they just put the ball out of play and they try and slow it down. So I think it would be, especially when at Celtic Park where Postecoglou, they've got the multi-ball system where the ball boys put the ball on quick and stuff like that. So I think we probably score about another 4 goals.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. What's your reckon, Johnny?
Well, the fact that we have the ball and play a bit more, I think the guy's probably right. And Regan's just said there, when we lost the goal with Dundee United, and I think the game's going to finish a draw, and we go apart and score out 2 goals. We didn't even need 10 or 12 minutes. I'm just sometimes watching some of these World Cup games, I'm wondering exactly what there is they're adding on that's man up to that time. I know, was it England and the Iran game, the goalkeeper got badly injured, and he was down about 7 or 8 minutes. You can see that. But I've seen a couple of games where I thought, well, there's not really been that much in the way of stoppages, but there's 8 minutes of injury time added on. And I'm just like, what are they exactly adding on in the World Cup that's not getting added on in our games in Scotland or even in England? Very rarely do you see 10, 12 minutes getting added on to games.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the time difference.
Listen, the origins of this decision, it wasn't about football and merit. The origins of this decision was all based on selling minutes to the advertisers. If you can promise an advertiser another 8-10 minutes of exposure with a brand, it increases how much money you can ask them. You know what I mean? And Pelé was cleaner is the referee that decided this. Seemingly, well, he's the one who's put his name to it. I mean, anybody that remembers him was still he's a big no-nonsense referee. So he's probably the man to put in front of the camera to say, "Oh, this is a decision based on we want 90 minutes of football for the spectators, and rather than the ball going out of the park and wasting." I was talking to my dad yesterday about it. He said that he's fed up and sick and tired of watching teams waste 4, 5, 6 minutes against Celtic. So this would kind of combat that. It would either stop it or it would at least compensate for the minutes. I think it's getting slowly but surely turned into an American sport where we've got cameras deciding decisions. We've got extra minutes before you know it. Before you know it, we'd water breaks before, but see, before you know it, we're going to have advert breaks during matches. You know what I mean? And it's going to be the detriment of the spectator inside the stadium. I mean, if you're watching on TV, you run to the fridge and get another can. If you're at the stadium, you're sitting there, and it's going to break up the play, etc. I think we're just going into a slow but steady course to turn this into an American sport where it's constantly about how much advertising revenue you can make and how much. I mean, we've already got. If you look at the top left-hand side screen of where the scores are, you've got like Hublot and all these other watchmakers advertise it, sponsoring the clock on the side of the fucking scoreboard. I mean, it's just ridiculous now. You're going to have. I definitely think it's just one. For me, it's one step too far. I like the fact that I think the referees should clamp. If there's going to be a mandate on this, it should be a mandate for the referees to clamp down on wastage, time wastage. If that means stopping the clock, or at least adding on the minutes for long injuries, absolutely. So if somebody's doing for 30 seconds, the referee should look at his watch and remember where it was. Throw-ins and goalkeepers taking 15 seconds for a bye kick. You know what? See if I'm playing Barcelona and you're 1-0 up at the 89th minute, I'm telling Chris Sutton to run to the corner flag and hold it up. I'm telling Samaras today at Ibrox. I'm telling Paddy Robertson, Dembele to sit at the corner flag in Ibrox and waste 2 minutes. The same way that I would get annoyed if it's a John Suter doing it against us at Celtic Park if they're 1-0 up.
Yeah, the difference there, Mark, is it might be wasting a bit of time, but it's keeping the ball in play. You're talking about this American type way where Phil McGinley just put something on there. Apparently, Guy Lineker explained that they're adding time on for throw-ins, but they're not actually stopping the clock, are they? They're just saying, "Oh, throw in here, we'll stick another watch on it."
That will benefit Celtic because we didn't waste any time at taking a throw in. So we're not going to see any benefit from it.
But what will tell you, Phil, Mark, if they start going down the road of advert breaks, that'll be when I start watching live football, because I don't even watch live television on ITV at the minute. If there's a programme on,
I think it's coming.
Me and the wife will record it and watch it later so we can bin the adverts. So if that ever goes down that road, I'll just sack it off. I will
listen.
But just on that point, I'm going to have to go, lads, because my battery's down at 8% and it's chewing my battery. So I'm going to have to get off. So I'm going to love you and leave you all. Enjoy the last 5 minutes or so. And I'll speak to you next time.
See
you
you
next Sunday, maybe. Cheers, mate.
See you, Johnny.
Cheers.
I'll just answer that one if I can, David. I mean, I think it's already happening. I think it's already happening with the turning into like a sport for the TV viewer rather than a sport for the fans in the stadium. We've already got like these VAR does nothing for anybody inside the stadium. VAR just adds frustration to people. It's like when you watch the match on telly, you're basically you're seeing what's happening. You've got a better a better idea of what's happening. When you're at the stadium, you've not got a clue. I mean, it can take a minute and a half, 2 minutes before the announcer tells you what the game's actually been stopped for. They don't even always tell you. It's very vague information you're getting about why the game's been stopped. And I think the game has turned into, well, the game has always been about money, but the game's turned into a total and utter advertisement. I mean, for the minute you switch it on, for the minute you switch it off, it's about trying to sell you something. I mean, Sky Sports, for talking sake, there's an advert break. I think there must be like a minimum period of time that you're allowed, a maximum period of time where you're allowed to just show adverts. Because sometimes they show an advert, right, and then they'll come back, they'll say up next Celtic v Rangers, and they'll show you another set of adverts. It's literally like a 3 second interval between one set of adverts and the next set of adverts. We're already doing that road, and I think when it comes to this extra minutes, I think, don't forget, I know, listen, don't forget, see if you're adding 8 minutes extra time at half time and then another 7, 8 at full time, you're adding 20 minutes onto somebody's day at the end. See, try to catch their train, try to catch their bus, try to avoid the busy periods and motorway and things like that, you know. And I don't think it's a good idea. I think Celtic would benefit in terms of, I think the time wasting we could do. But see, eventually they would find new ways they would find new ways. You know what I mean? It would just be a case of just pass the ball back and forward at certain areas of the park. I think it would eventually just evolve into that, but it's coming. It's coming. So as
I just want to go in there, David, because there's been a goal World Cup and Japan are 1-0 down against
Oh dear.
Costa Rica.
Oh dear, that's not great news. I was quite surprised to hear that actually, because I thought Costa Rica looked like they were there for the taking. I'm going to move on now. This is the last part of the paper talk. This is just one that caught my eye that I really wanted to get everyone's opinion on. I'm not going to say who wrote this column. You could probably all take a wild guess. And I'll even let Regan have a wee guess at the end if he wants. But this one here made me laugh. The title is "Don't Get Pally McBeal," and it looks at the downfall of Gio at Rangers, his time at Rangers, and it's been pinpointed that the moment that was his downfall was at the very beginning when he sat and had a cup of coffee with our manager Ange Postecoglou in a coffee shop where they bumped into each other because they just so happened to go to the same coffee shop as they live in quite close vicinity to each other. So it goes on to say, was it the costliest cup of coffee that Gio has ever had? The one that he had in the company of Ange Postecoglou when the pair accidentally met in a restaurant, favoured by both men near their homes in Glasgow's West End. The breakfast beverage that ultimately meant his tea was out. The old firm employees are effectively under 24-hour surveillance in this age of social media, and there he was, interpreted snooper on hand, and of course to photograph the moment of posterity, and the seed of doubt over the Dutchman's credentials was sown at that very moment. His credentials were shown at that very moment. Not the fact that he'd won titles in Holland, not the fact that he was getting himself, he managed to get them to a European Cup final. No, he had a cup of coffee with our manager, and that sowed the doubts of any credentials that he had. He goes on to say that one man's civilised behaviour is another man's questionable conduct when it's a rivalry that doesn't really do etiquette. The fans, I think, ultimately found that their manager to be too polite and less competitive than they were looking for. Those embraces with Postecoglou before and after derby games were just too fraternal to fit the abrasive nature of the occasion. Ruthlessness is what's required. Cold-eyed determination and a grim face, understanding that you have to do whatever is necessary to restore the balance of power, titled in Celtic's favour by Ange Postecoglou. Now, does anyone have a wee little guess at who wrote that drivel?
Yes, I know exactly who it is.
And who would that be, Regan?
Somebody that I managed to interview before.
Mr. Hugh Keevins.
Hugh Keevins, right?
Mr. Hugh Keevins. Now, nothing to do with the fact that Ange Postecoglou has just had Gio's number since day one. I don't think it's got anything to do with the cup of coffee that they had. I think it's just to do that Ange Postecoglou is a far better manager, and we have a superior squad at the moment. To try and say that his downfall was to do with just sharing a cup of coffee with somebody is honestly scraping the barrel at trying to find reasons as to why it hasn't worked at Rangers. Nothing to do with just the fact that we're the far better side at the moment.
And I think the fact that he's mentioned as well, David, the fact that he's mentioned that he's too friendly with him. Well, obviously these guys talk, as much as we like to think, Celtic and Rangers, the managers, the both don't speak, but they all speak, So we can't just say, he's too friendly, the way he shook his hand and all that. That's a lot of rubbish. I mean, that's just to fill the paper,
Yeah.
It's disgusting. I mean, nobody does more to perpetuate the myth that we all hate each other with a passion more than Hugh Keevins. He speaks about us, both sides of supporters, like we're uncivilized animals. We can't control our own water, you know what I mean, and we just hate each other. John Gray and Bob McNeil used to go for drinks together after derby matches. I mean, one of the most revered characters in our history, Tommy Burns, his coffin was carried by Walter Smith and Alan McCoist. The family chose the two Rangers figureheads, probably two of the biggest legends that club ever had, were carrying. And do you think any of them hated the man's they were carrying? No, I don't fucking think so. I just think it's a disgusting. I've not read that headline or that story. That's disgusting, mate. But see, the thing is, it just makes us, it makes it the fans seem like we're disgusting and we hate each other. And I mean, I remember Celtic beat Rangers, and the next day, you had guys like Chris Boyd talking about how Pedro Caixinha was cuddling at Brendan Rodgers and laughing and saying, "Oh, good game." That's just showing a bit of humility. Can you not be humble? Can you not be civilized? Do you have to fucking hate each other? Do you have to? And I listened to an interview Hugh Keevins did with English media. It was on YouTube. It was going about pure bumming up, like the hatred, like we can't work with each other, we can't talk to each other, but we've got no friends that are of the other. I couldn't give a shit, mate. I couldn't give a shit. I mean, who you support would be the last question I ask you when I was deciding whether I liked you or not, mate. You know what I mean? And I love my club. You know what I mean? I just things like that. I mean, you're talking about. He said the seeds were sown for that. That was actually before his first game. This is a man, right, who was one penalty kick and one Ryan Kent away from. And let's be honest here, right? This is the way this would have been portrayed. If they had been heralded to have the second greatest team in Scottish history since the Lisbon Lions, that have been rated as the biggest achievement by a Scottish club since the Lisbon Lions won the UEFA Cup. And by the way, if we won it in 2003, we would have said the exact same thing. So let's just get that right.
Right.
That's how. Whether you like the man, whether you like Rangers or no, he was a Ryan Kent miss away if he won the UEFA Cup. So, and he would have had tattoos, he would have had a statue, he would have been Sir Gio fucking Van Bronckhorst. You name it, that guy would have been unsackable for years, right? Mm-hmm. So let's not pretend that his card was marked for his very first day for walking by a man sitting down for a minute and just being forcing off the camera there. I mean, that's, and do you know? But see, that's the thing that keeps guys like us relevant. They bum up the hatred for each other, and it gets to the stage that see having an unbiased, balanced opinion has got to be have an agenda behind it. If anybody phones up that show with just a genuine opinion or a genuine point on a football match, every one of the pundits on that shitty show has got something negative to say about it because they think it's got to come from the bile that's deep inside you. It's got to come from this pit of hatred. It's not just because you have seen something and you're analysing it as the best of your ability. It's got to come from hatred. And they bum it up. That show in particular bums up the hatred. I mean, you've got guys. I made a point a couple weeks ago on the show, and you've got the host slamming his pen down. You know what I mean? Before I even finished my sentence, because I had him and his so-called expert Kenny Miller flatting. You know what I mean? They don't know where to look, and that happens to me quite often. Not just me. Anybody that phones up has them flatting. I've not got a clue, mate. In fact, anybody that's phoned up the show, I've done it about 3 or 4 times now. They mute you halfway through your sentence. They mute you, and I don't blame them. Sometimes guys talk a lot of shit, especially me, but they don't let guys articulate their point very well, and that's where they win. They've got control of the volume buttons. They can turn you down. They can turn you off. They can have a producer Google the facts instantly. So they've got you in a barrel. So nah, mate. Do you know something? I wouldn't have guessed Hugh Keevins. I would probably say Chris Boyd because I thought even that statement was too far for Hugh Keevins. I know the guy's bought a house and he's raised his family on being controversial. Good on him, but that kind of stuff, mate, I think you should leave that. I mean, and it always has pops at the modern society, like say, in today's age. Now, listen, I can't get a pint at Celtic Park because of folk his age. Because of folk his age having a fight at on Hampden's pitch, I can't get a pint in the stadium. Because of folk his age. Mm-hmm. No people with mobile phones and a Lessie tracksuits. Because the guy's his fucking age. So the next time he wants to have a pop about the modern society and the modern world just being a horrible place that it doesn't want to be in, you still look at yourself. I mean, I think there's been 4 Hampden riots. Every single one of them has involved one club, by the way. Just so you know, every Hampden riot has involved one club. And it's no Celtic for a start. So let's try and get down to that side of it where you don't have to put us and like we're two cheeks of the same arse. Well, no, we're different for them, they're different for us, but we don't hate each other, mate. We want to beat them more than anybody. But to think, would it annoy me if I walked into a pub and seen Scott Brown, the most iconic captain in the last 30 years, sitting with Kevin Thompson, a guy who talked utter pish about Celtic on the daily? What the fuck? What the hell? If I seen Chris Boyd sitting with Carl McGregor having a coffee, when he forced me one bit. I mean, some of my mates are Rangers fans.
Mm-hmm.
My
best mate's a Rangers fan. I can sit and have a play with him all day about football, and I can have to listen to him talk his part about his club and his opinions, and it's I mean, have a great chats about it, have a good laugh about it. You know, it's in the day, like, but to sit there and try to bum up this rivalry, the horrible stark side of our rivalry, to keep trying to, like, you know, feed that fire when you've just got two guys that have got, you know, obviously Gio has his history of being a Rangers player, but he was one of the nicest Rangers players you could probably say that they've had, like, you know, in recent history. I've got no reason to dislike Gio, other, you know, and my mate Darren, I mean, he's staunch, massive Rangers fan, and he goes, the most annoying thing about Ange Postecoglou is I don't actually have any reason to dislike him. He's not done anything, and you know what I mean? So we weren't going to have a Judge Kearney moment there, but I think we've just had.
I think.
Well, sorry, mate.
No, that was a brilliant. No, because I said to you, do you have anything you want to do for the Judge Kearney segment today? And you're like, nah, not today, mate. Everything's good. But I'm glad I managed to feel that fire and get it out of you. That was brilliant. A few people just left with a bloody nose after that discussion. That's
well, mate, it's like, you ever notice, you've probably heard it yourself, see after any time Celtic beat Rangers, and see the post-match analysis, very quickly turns into, there wasn't enough grit by Rangers. There was no hard challenges. Where was the desire? It never goes down to footballing ability. It very rarely starts and stops with footballing ability or just who was more on their game on that day. It's going to be an ex-Rangers player. If I was in that park, Walter would have had me with a throat, you know, and Alan McCoy would have maybe washed his motor for a month for that, you know, some ridiculous statement like that. It never comes down to tactics, sporting ability, players just having that clinical edge. It's going to come to, now, I accept the Rangers side would rather see a broken leg for the opposition than a 30-yard strike. I know that's the way they think, right? I know that, right? They'd rather see a Terry Butcher with a blood on his face for England than a Jimmy Johnson running down the wing. I know that, right? That's just two different cultures within their support. But it doesn't always have to come down to that. Like, they don't always. If the Rangers fans who know football think that failed because Van Bronckhorst was just too nice, too loving in the dressing room, too social with any Celtic-minded individuals outside the game, then I'd be surprised, mate. Anybody that knows football would tell you that there's probably... I'll tell you right now, my opinion was what happened to Rangers. The players, for whatever reason, are not with him. He lost the players a long time ago, probably pre-season. He lost them, right? It's been very evident that Ryan Kent and Morelos of the Odson Edwards and Ryan Christie's of the 2020 season, they don't want to be there, and they were kept on, and it's backfired on them. You get two big personalities in there, and the penalties are dried up. They don't get as much penalties, things like that. There's been so many things that are just. Sometimes you get in football. Sometimes you get a perfect storm, where everything just doesn't go for you. They've got injuries building up, which doesn't happen to them very often. As I say, the players who don't want to be there. They've got a board who isn't spending money, which is gobsmacking for Rangers. You know what I mean? I think that'll change once Michael Beale comes in. And just so quickly, you mentioned the calling him Mikey now. It's funny how there's always terms of endearment for Rangers managers like Watty and Big Eck. But then it was Neil or Lenny. You know, it was always said with a bit of thunder when it comes to the press. And I think the only one I remember getting a wee bit of loving with the endearment of any type by the fans, by the press was Gordon Strachan. I think they used to call it Wee Gordon and things like that. maybe there's more to that story. Maybe he's a bit more open with the press and what other select managers were. But aye, so he's the minute he's linked with Rangers. But I did see what was Jim White last night saying that according to his sources, there's been no permission granted by QPR, and that was like at midnight last night. He says that according to his sources, and there's a bit of standoff. Like, and I think the press yesterday were reporting that it was all permission would be granted, etc. But Jim White in England, I think he's got his fingers on the pulse. To be quite honest with you,
He knows.
No, he knows. So Regan, I'm gonna jump to you now, mate. Right, because we're gonna move on.
Sorry, mate.
Don't apologise, mate. I absolutely loved that. I could have listened to you just rant all day about how ridiculous the media are. But we're going to move on because we're going to move on to the new segment that I've decided to coin, the return ticket. And the idea behind the return ticket is I'm going to take a screen grab of one of our contributors. I know we don't really like that term, but that's what we're going to call ourselves. Right? We're the contributors of the bus, right? I'm going to take a screen grab from a show where Regan, like you said, you're not on the Monday Club,
Nope.
or I might take a maybe one from the TNF. Obviously, both me and Mark were on the TNF on Thursday, so I'm not taking one for there. I've taken one from the Monday Club, and you're going to have to excuse the. I've not got the budget to be getting all the things on the screen that yet. I'm still working out the counts, but I've got the iPad here. And we've got the Monday Club on the screen, and this is a conversation that Jono and Russell, or Boyce, whatever you want to call him, we'll use his Sunday name, Russell, and they're having a conversation about the World Cup and about potential transfer options. So I'm just going to play this over the microphone. Hopefully it comes across sounding okay, and then I just want to then maybe get your guys' opinions on what Jono said. And I've got a little bit of follow up on that as well. Okay, so here we go. Hopefully this works all right for you.
Where this boat's going to end up. Another interesting point is he's saying that he's pretty much done all his business in January. There is a World Cup going on at the moment, Russell, and I would be very surprised if Ange Postecoglou doesn't have his scouts out there looking. So whilst he might be saying that he's...
Right, so Jono hit the nail on the head there. Has Ange Postecoglou, who's already said that he's got his business done for January, but has he got his scouts out looking at potential gems that are playing at the World Cup? Now, there's been a few gems that have stood out to me, Regan, so far. I know you've done a little bit of homework for me in terms of looking at players that Ange maybe be looking at, and I have also done the same. I just want to quickly go to a quote that Ange said last year. Ange said, "I go beyond Japan. I think Asian players in general, there's players from Iran, Saudi Arabia, who we all saw shock the world in Argentina last week, that you think they could play in Europe very easily, top talents." So I had a look at the Saudi Arabia side, because I went on to the old internet, and there was a column in The Guardian for the entire World Cup that look at every single player that is playing at the World Cup this now, and they've got a wee profile on each of one of them. Now, I picked out two, Regan, from Saudi Arabia. I'm just going to name them, and I'm going to give you a quick profile on these players, and I just want to get what your view on them. And I'd like you to backhand me one with one of the players that you've been scouting yourself. So I gave a wee snippet of this on the Thursday night show. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch that. So point of us doing the return ticket, so you can go back and have a look at the shows that you maybe missed. Maybe Jono said something there that pricked your ears up and thought, I better go back and watch the Monday show. So here we go. I've got, first up, Nasir Al-Dosari. I'm not sure if I'm butchering the names here, so please bear with me. He's got the nickname the Tornado. He's 23 years old. He's an attacking forward. Al-Dosari has yet to reach his mid-20s, but is almost into double digits for major silverware at his club Al Hilal. Where I think somebody pointed out that Ronaldo was, they were trying to sign Ronaldo. I'm not sure if that was a bit of tongue-in-cheek or not. He also lashed home within 16 seconds of the 2021's AFC Champions League decider against South Korea's Pohang Steelers, which is the fastest strike in the competition's history. We've seen his goal against Argentina. He is considered the golden boy of Saudi Arabian football. He is, according to the source here, which Phil tears his hair out reading, is apparently his transfer value is 700k. That might be going up in value every day. with the goal that he scored against Argentina. Well, his fellow countryman is an attacking midfielder who's 25 years old. His name is Sami Al-Naji. Apparently, he's worth 1.5 million. He's an emerging creative force in Saudi Arabia. Al-Naji should get the chance to express himself once again on the global stage. He excelled at the Tokyo Olympics, scoring twice in the eventual 3-2 defeat to Germany. This electric form has been maintained at Al Nassr, with a strong connection between himself, the forceful Brazilian Talisca, and the Cameroon striker Vincent Aboukabar is clear. An impressive tally of 5 goal contributions and 8 top-flight run-outs of the 22-23 showcases what a dynamic option he is. Now, he, to me, sounds like a player that would fit into Ange's sort of player mould. What do you reckon out of those two boys that played a massive part in the win against Argentina? I didn't see their game the other day, so I can't tell you how I felt they played.
They played well yesterday, Saudi Arabia.
They played well yesterday. So what do you make of them, Regan? Do they players? I know this is a bit of fun because we've got no insight if Ange's been scouting these players. I just had a wee look for the Guardian's profile of each player and thought, well, he sounds like a player that maybe Ange might have been alluding to when he talks about Saudi Arabia players and Asian players that could play in Europe. So, what's your thoughts there, Regan?
Yeah, I mean, I've been impressed with they two. I mean, they played well against Argentina, like you said, David. Probably the biggest stage. I think it was actually him that scored the winning goal. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, he scored the goal. He scored the goal against Argentina. The tornado he's been referred to.
Yeah, I mean, like if he's the kind of golden boy that country, then I think we should be. And like you said, there, David, he's only 900k, so I think we should be trying to possibly see if we can do something with him, because, like you said, the inflation in the World Cup, he'd probably only be, I don't know, 1-2 million at best if he does well at World Cup. So I think he's somebody that's in our price bracket. I can't believe I'm even saying this in 2022 that we are aiming for guys at 2 million quid, though, David. I think we should still be aiming for guys at like maybe 6 or 7 million, but that's just the way Celtic have went.
Yeah.
See, a guy that I actually looked at is the Qatar striker, Ali. Now, he's very, very young. He's the kind of golden boy of that football. He scored the other day against Ecuador, and I think he'd be a kind of good option for a kind of striker or a wide man. He's very young and still got a lot of good years ahead of him. What Celtic would do, they would obviously invest in him and sell him on as well. So, like we said, that's just an option that I thought it was Ali, the striker for Qatar.
Mm-hmm. I can't say I've seen much of the Qatar games. I did see the highlights. I've seen the offside goal, the goal for Ecuador that was ruled offside. Mark, I know you've not been paying too much attention to the World Cup so far, but there's a player that I've seen I want to just throw out there, and this man is called Shuto Machino or Machino. I'm going to say Machino. I think it sounds more Japanese. I've pronounced that correctly. Now, Shuto, his name has come up already because he is the man that was called up after the injury to Japan's star striker. We thought that maybe Kyogo would maybe get the call up if an injury had happened to one of their forwards. An injury did happen, but it wasn't our man. It was Shuto Machino. And as far as I'm aware, he's still playing in the J League. Now, I want you to listen to this, Regan. This is quite interesting here. Now, when I read this, I can kind of go, okay, I can almost see why he got called up. I don't know if he's going to get much game time, but Japan always seems to be an entertaining side at the World Cup that they attend, often playing in unique kits with a variety of players who ply their trade in Europe as well as those who make up the J League, as they always fight until the final whistle, which is a trait that we seem to see with Ange Postecoglou's Celtic. Their 2-1 win over Colombia that got them into the round of 16 in Russia was a testament to that. Now, we're gambling that Shonan Bellmare striker Shuto Machino will do the business for the Samurai Blue. Machino is likely to be an unknown entity for most, but his record in the J League is very solid for a 23-year-old, 13 goals and 30 appearances. This season speaks for itself, and his international career, he's managed to score 3 times in 4 games. Machino's 21% goal conversion rate is impressive and is comparable to the likes of Alexander Mitrovic at 16%, Harry Kane at 22%, and Ivan Toney at 24%. One of the features of Machino is that he is amphibial. I'm butchering this, guys. I'm sorry, and uses both feet when creating chances and shooting. Plays on the left side of a 2-man attack, so expect Japan to line up similarly this week. Now, when you hear the goal conversion, now this is why Kyogo perhaps didn't get the call up, because he doesn't apparently do it at international level. He doesn't. He's nowhere near as prolific. He's not prolific enough at international level. When you're scoring 3 times at 4 appearances for your national side, I can almost see why the Japan manager would have called him up instead of Kyogo, because yes, Kyogo he's a top goal scorer, but it takes a lot of chance. It takes him a lot of chances. We know that he's not going to get that again. Well, we thought Japan weren't going to get that against Germany, and I'm not. The game's currently on just now, and I think they're still losing 1-0. So I don't know how many chances they're creating at this moment in time. But when you're getting a guy that you can bring off the bench that's scored with that conversion rate, it's maybe the better option for the Japanese manager. Would you agree, Mark?
Well, aye, definitely. I mean, one thing we say about Kyogo is as much as he goes into good positions and he does it very well, he doesn't score the amount of chances that he should. I mean, his conversion rate must be about 5%. So I understand why when you're playing at a World Cup, it's us playing the Champions League, chances might be few and far between. I mean, you've got a guy called Shuto who's a striker. I mean, that guy's born. I mean, to play football. It's like a magician called Abracadabra, isn't it? I mean, come on. His career was pathed out from him for the minute he was born. One thing about Ange's statement was, I think it's been misinterpreted. What he said was, I think his work's done in terms of the targets he's looking for. I think they've already been identified. I don't think the players that's coming in is it might well be the case that they're not going to come in. And what he also said was, there's a World Cup going on, and we'll be watching that for anybody that comes up. That boy who scored that great goal against Argentina, see the minute that ball stopped bouncing and hit the back of the net, there was 25 scouts looking at his history, looking at his googling his YouTube reel and looking at why that guy was picked for the World Cup squad, and seeing. So I think he'll have his pick a certain level of clubs. I think so. 700 grand, I think, turns into 10 million euros right there. I think that's how the World Cup works, mate. I said earlier on that it does. I mean, the World Cup is like a wee nebula for stars to be born. You know what I mean? And I think when you've got guys like Chicharito, a Dodo that when they score 30 goals in Scotland, got to Real Madrid because he had 3 or 4 World Cup performances. That's what happens. We paid £4 million for Efren Juarez. I mean, I said effing something when I saw him play. It wasn't fucking effing good. I tell you, one of the worst footballers I've seen in a long time at Celtic. I've seen somebody saying he played pretty well for Celtic. I thought he was red rotten. He looked like a football player, but he played football like a tennis player. To be honest with you, he was shite.
He's Ronnie's assistant coach now.
I heard that, mate, and don't get me wrong, mate. He's probably good at setting the codes up, but we need. I'm glad that it's true, mate. It's what the fuck. I mean, there's always somebody that comes into a club. It's a yes man. Is good for setting codes. I think John Kennedy. I mean, I don't know what that guy does, but he's certainly good at washing cars or something. He's got a job for life. But
people say John Kennedy's a good coach, man. A lot of people.
A lot of players, ex-players, have said that they enjoy working.
To be honest with you, to be fair, Brendan Rodgers tried to take him to Leicester, so the guy must be really good at taking information and passing it on. I mean, the guy must be really good at that. I mean, the guy. Yeah, I was annoyed that he's a figurehead for the 10 in a row season. That's what probably was bothering me. Other than that, I've got a problem with the guy.
There was a comment brought up there, Mark. I just want to quickly go back to Charlie Smith. He said it's always good to see a player you've never seen before at the World Cup. But can they do it over a season of football? And that is the biggest question. It's, when you watch the World Cup, it is like watching a player's highlight reel, because there's so many players that you've never heard before. You go, oh, he looks like a good player. He might be playing for Senegal or a country you're never really going to be investing any time to watch. When you see a player like that, even like the boy that's in Valencia, he plays for Ecuador. I know he was at like West Ham at some point, and now he's playing in Turkey. But you see a player like that, and you go, wow, he looks like a player. But and then would he manage it? Would he manage it over a full season? And that is the risk that you take when you're basing a player's you're basing a player's performances, and that's what we might be relying on Juranovic, because I'll say that I think Juranovic is a good player. He's not as good as he likes to think he is, but he's a good player. And there's nothing wrong with having a bit of confidence. But if he is moving on this window, I am relying that he plays out his skin.
I hope he does.
Because he hasn't reached. I think he's put in some steady performances this year, but I don't think he's hit the heights as he maybe did last year that kind of got him the sort of status that he's had.
I didn't see the heights, but David, I think when somebody tells you a pizza shop's good, when you go to that pizza shop, you've got this mindset where this is going to be good, right? See, somebody tells you that Juranovic is good, you automatically, the narrative in your head is this guy's going to be good. See, the first good challenge he wins, it doesn't become like just a good challenge, it's an outstanding challenge. You know what I mean? You go, oh, look at that. And it happens to me every time I watch football, and I go, oh. Anytime Hatate plays a 4-yard pass, this guy's behind me going, oh, no, rest it, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, calm down. I've not watched. This goes for a lot of players at Celtic, because they're only at a certain level. I've yet to watch a game of football and go like to myself, what a player Juranovic is. Not once if I left the stadium and says, what a game he's had. Not once. But I tell you something, there's been about 25 times I walked away going like that. What the fuck was he all about there? You know what I mean? The game we won a couple of weeks ago against Dundee United, I think we won in the last minute. And see that match? I mean, Dundee United. The game we just won the last very late on. And that match, he set his alarm that day, and he woke up that day and said, I'm going to make sure we lose the day. Because that is the only way I could describe how bad he was. He was horrific. And even some of the sycophants and their supporters were tweeting about how bad he was that day. And that, to me, the performances were more often than his good ones. That's just my opinion. But I agree with you, David. See if he puts in a right good performance, at least one of the 3 games that Croatia might get, and they might go further, and it's a standard performance, that 10 million becomes 13, 14, 15. It does. And because I think chairmen out there and managers out there, they go for what's in vogue. If a player's in vogue, they're in fashion, as you said, they're a sexy name for that couple of weeks, managers want to sign them, because I think there's an obligation for the big clubs or the bigger clubs with the money, or the clubs with money, that they watch a World Cup and at least sign one player. I think these clubs are disappointed that if a World Cup happens and why the good performers only snapped up by somebody in England, I think they feel like they're letting their fan base down. And we've saw it before. I mean, a goalkeeper saves one penalty during a match, and before you know it, he's number 3 at Chelsea. You know what I mean? That's what happens, mate.
I think the interesting thing with GG, or JJ as they call him at Celtic, I mean, I've not went to a game and said to myself, he was outstanding. There's going to be a lot of clubs chasing. So I don't know how this narrative's all of a sudden popped up. Like seeing Scotland, right? Of course, people say, like, Scotland's easy and stuff, but there's like, you know how we like Tierney or Chris Ferraya, you kind of went and you went, these guys are going to go far, they're going to do well. Like, you can see Tierney's going to go places, and the Belgian a level above. I didn't go there and go, Juranovic is going to create something that's going to make us so much better. I think the only point I would say about the new is real, because he just seems to have that bit of magic. Look at the game against Dundee United. See that wee bit of trickery to make that second goal. I mean, it was brilliant.
He's outstanding, that boy. If that boy didn't win Player of the Year this year, it was because he something out with his control. That guy is. I think Jota's at the borderline getting too good for the Celtic team level. I think that guy's ability is just. Some players look at tricks and flicks. This guy has just got an end product. He's the guys, but I think Hatate is. He at Bad Boy. He's only 2 years of pro football. I mean, if he doesn't go to the next level, at least the next level after Celtic, then I think it'll be stuff out with his control because the guy's a maestro, so he is.
I mean, I'm telling you right now, he would fit into a glove, into like a Spurs team or an Arsenal team or somebody that plays great football, man. He'd be right in there.
Yeah.
Because he's got that kind of wee touch, the wee elegance on the ball, which is brilliant to watch.
I mean, if the guys at Modric can do it at 38, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to suggest he's anything like Modric before anybody slams me here, but I mean, the way he plucks the ball out of the air and the way he can control it and make the more difficult pass look simple. I mean, I was having a wee bit of tongue in cheek there because I was just trying to prove a point. Sometimes the fans, if they think a player's good and they make a good pass, it becomes an excellent pass. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he's just, that boy's impressed me so much. I mean, I think there's no much missing for him. I think I'm actually glad he didn't go to the World Cup. I'm going to be honest with you because I'm panicking that he's got to just keep getting better and we lose him this season. I want to see him a bit longer at Celtic, and I think if he went to a World Cup, I think he would have fucking scored a 20-yarder or something, and they're away. I mean, that's game over. So as soon as they start doing that in the big stage, it's bye-bye.
A couple of things. Sorry, David. No, sorry. I'll let you finish up what you were saying, mate. That's not a problem.
He is the one player that makes us tight. You look at the game against Real Madrid. There was so many moments where he just took over the game and made us like. You went, wow. I mean, see that pass that they done up against Toni Kroos? It's still on YouTube. There is. You can still view that. I mean, that pass is going to be up for years. I mean, and like Mark said there about like a proper good team. Like, it's okay us saying, oh, we're in Scotland, we're being a bit overreactive, but it's just when you see these players, Mark, you can see that they could go to a bigger league and do well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, mate. Totally agree.
So it's just about to go 12:15. I'm just going to start wrapping things up now. And before we do that, there's a couple of shout-outs I want to do. I want a big shout-out to our Australian friends over there. A great win for them yesterday. And this isn't very Celtic related, but I've seen a comment from Monty, if we can bring that back up. There we go. We'd just like to give a big shout out to Big Doddy Weir and his family today. Rest in peace, Doddy, and God be with your family at this time. My partner's mum has MND, and it's a hard thing to say. Yes, I'm going to round it up. We've been talking about papers. We've been doing the paper talk today, and at the front of the paper today, we've got Doddy Weir, who sadly passed away. He was born in 1978 and passed away, obviously, in 2022. Says he's a giant on the field and a hero off it. Tributes to rugby idol who raised $8 million for MND fight. An absolute giant of a man. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a rugby fan, but when you see guys like this that have done so much on the field, and especially what they've done off the field, I always feel like it's good that we give a wee mention to him and we pass our thoughts and prayers to his family.
Well said.
On that note, guys, I believe I'm not 100% sure what the time is, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to have Boise back on later today with a mate of his who is that runs a pub in Dunfermline, and they're going to be talking about a charity event that they'll be putting on for a friend. They're doing a Brave the Shave. I'll let them tell you guys all about that, but I'm sure it's on later on today. So make sure that you tune into that, guys. I just want to thank everyone for sticking with us today. I want to thank Regan, thank Mark, and my dad for joining me on the new sort of Sunday style. I hope you guys Sunday Blether. I hope you like the new style of it. And if we'll continue to do this for the next wee while and see how we get on. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'm not actually sure if I'll be on next Sunday, as it's my work Christmas night out, so we'll see how I'm feeling in the morning. If
just
not,
can't
Mark,
commit, mate. See, you can't commit, mate.
If not, Mark, you're going to have to run and grab a paper and next week, mate.
I actually think I think next week we might be in the studio, mate.
Oh, it's the studio next
Yeah.
week, guys. So
Yeah.
right enough. Right, well, maybe I'll let Boyce decide what's happening on Sunday then. But again, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it and have a great Sunday. And we'll see you for the Monday Club as well. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Cheers,
Take
guys.
care.
Thank you.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.